Let's see what happens. Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Couples Academy Live. My name is Hassani.
And I'm Danielle.
And we are Couples Academy. And every single morning we come to you to have a great conversation about what it takes to take your relationship to the next level. Every morning around 9:15, we delve into some serious topics. And we love Fridays because Friday is the day where we get to engage and interact with you and answer your questions. So listen, if you are on Instagram, okay, if you are on Instagram, you can dial us at 678-200-8996. You actually text your questions. It comes directly into our phone.
That's a great
that
idea.
way we can see it. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you see the number at the bottom. Some of you, we know, you're watching this separate from your partner, and you don't want to put yourself on Front Street. Maybe there's issues or situations that you're dealing with, and you have questions. Like last night, we got about 15 questions from a particular person and a few other people because they're tuning in, but they don't want to expose their situation. And I respect that.
I do respect that.
I do respect that. Others of you, that's not necessarily your issue. And so we can be very interactive here. So we just want to say good morning to a few people.
Hey, Calvin.
Calvin, good morning. Good to see you as
good
always.
morning.
Steph, good morning. Good morning.
Amir,
hi. Hope we're pronouncing your name right. What is that? Carolyn? Okay, great. So listen, today is all about your questions. So we want you to drop them in here. Drop them in the chat. There's lots to talk about. But I just want to start off talking to you about why we do this and what the purpose of this is. How to effectively use these Couples Academy Lives. We do it because we know that there's a large audience out there that are struggling.
Yeah.
You have certain relationships where the couple isn't necessarily on the same page. One wants counseling, one doesn't. And so until you both get to that same place, you can use this platform as a way to really learn and figure out how you can make changes in your relationship. So the question is, how do you use it? We understand that there's conflict in relationships. There's conflict. We understand that there's disagreements. You're at odds. You have different perspectives. What we don't want you to do is to use these videos and weaponize them. Like, for instance, you ever go to church and you went alone because spouse didn't make it, and the preacher preaches this good message, and you the whole time you think, she needed to be here for this. That joker needed to hear this message. You needed to hear the message. The message was for you. And if you're embracing the message and if you are implementing what was said, you're making a shift in your relationship. Yes, it would be better if your spouse was there, but stop looking at it and stop experiencing these videos for the purpose of your spouse, but for yourself.
Absolutely. I don't have anything to add to that, Asani. That's it.
That's it. So don't use it as a weapon. Don't use it as a tool. Don't use it as a rock to throw, but use it like engage with it together. Some of you are watching these videos separate, and that's fine because you may be on your drive time. You may be at work. You may be in the comfort of your home. But what you want to do is take the time to sit down and have a conversation about it. Hey, did you catch Hassani and Danielle in their live? Yeah. Well, what'd you think about it? Oh man, I got so much out of it. And you want, like, we're talking about love. All right. And what it's not. And if there's a tendency to think, yeah, he don't do that for me, or she's always doing it. Well, what are you doing?
Right. Though yesterday we had quite a few people who were like, that's me. That was me.
Which was very helpful.
Which I appreciate when somebody can acknowledge their own stuff. But good point, Hassani.
All right. So we have a few more, and then we're going to jump into the questions. Ken, good morning, family. Good to see you. Embrace Marriage Ministries. Good morning, God. Good to see you. Good morning. I'm Army Princess Husbands. We're watching. Good to see you. G. Wilson. We love all you on Instagram. All right. So we had a question that comes in, and we want to start with this. And as we're answering these questions, please drop your questions here. When the unfaithful spouse refuses to be vulnerable and scared to seek professional help because they fear hearing the truth about themselves, what do you do? This is a big problem. What we do know is that there's a lot of people who have been the unfaithful spouse that don't want to go to counseling because either they're holding on to a secret that they don't want to reveal. They believe that if I tell the truth, it's going to implode this relationship. They're trapped in between guilt and shame. And so they don't want to be reminded of their past. They just want to move forward. And all I could say, these are the couples that struggle the most. You cannot do this on your own. It's not about Hassani and Danielle and Couples Academy, there are many people out there that can offer help, but you have to go to someone who's skilled and knowledgeable to get you through your issues. You cannot self-medicate. You can't do it. And we use this example all the time about a plane. When you get on a plane going from Atlanta to LA, when that plane lifts off the ground, 90% of its journey's off course. 90%. The only way that it gets to its final destination, there's a radar system guiding that plane. So there are course corrections being made along the way, latitude, longitude lines. All of this is happening to get to the final destination. Without that, you wind up in Timbuktu somewhere. Yeah. Likewise, couples who feel like, you know what, we can do this on our own. We don't need a counselor. We don't need a coach. We don't need somebody. 90% of your journey is going to be off course.
Absolutely. And I'll add that, vulnerability is a very tricky thing. It really does speak to someone's ability to be introspective and actually look at stuff. I talk a lot about the grain of sand, which represents inside of a pearl. So like inside of a pearl, when a pearl is created, the grain of sand got under the clam, and that agitation is coded by mother of pearl over and over and over. So it's trying to get rid of this agitation, this feeling that doesn't feel right, and they know it doesn't belong, so they code it, and you end up with this beautiful pearl, all kinds of different color pearls, black pearls, pink pearls, white pearls, right? But nobody knows what the grain of sand is. And so in life, we all have this grain of sand, and sometimes we get it when we're really young, and sometimes we pick up little pieces of sand along the way. But those things we cover and protect with things like arrogance, and sometimes we're completely ignorant to it. Sometimes it's shame at the core of it, and we don't know. So we put on a whole other facade to boast and to move against the grain of sand, or to hide the grain of sand. We all have our version of mother of pearl. And so I think vulnerability isn't as easy as we would sometimes want it to be. Sometimes we just want our spouse, could you just be transparent with me? Could you just open up to me? And it's very difficult because for many people, they really don't know what their grain of sand is. So they don't know how to become vulnerable. So I love what Hassani says about starting with you. We talk about, draw a circle around your own feet, right? And focus on you, because when you start to focus on you and make shifts and changes in your personality, you force the environment around you to shift to your new shape. So I guess we all have to become shapeshifters in a way. But that to me is the best advice that I could give when dealing with someone else that you can't change and that has their own bits of sand, because we all do, including you, the one who's asking that question. Work on yourself, figure out what your grain of sand is. And once you unearth it, you might discover that the things about your partner that get on your nerves, that get under your skin, don't affect you as much anymore.
That's so true. So the way you're wired and the lens you look through can often interpret what your partner is or isn't doing.
Absolutely.
So your own perspective could be a part of the problem.
It 100% is part of the problem. And there's no way it cannot be a part of the problem, because we all have our lenses and we think things should be this way or that way. And so when you perfect yourself through God, that's the perfecter, right? So, we can't have our own standard here and say, okay, I'm going to perfect myself to be this way. No, you perfect your God as yourself as a reflection of God. And now you're really getting to that grain of sand. Now that thing can be unearthed, and you'll see that you're different and everyone around you starts to change. The only downside to it is that if you have a partner that is unwilling to change and you begin to change, suddenly they become obsolete in your life. They become, unfortunately, you begin to move away. And this is why we talk about growing together. You don't want to grow apart, is what ends up happening, but we both have a choice. That's the point.
Absolutely. Yolanda says being vulnerable is not easy, but vital in restoring a marriage. I have a very good friend that always asks me, what can I do? I love her for that. Vulnerability, to your point, everything you're unpacking is exactly right.
Yeah.
Vulnerability, another word for that is being naked, right? In a marriage, of course, we have no problem being physically naked, but we really struggle being emotionally naked and revealing ourselves. But see, that's where you have that true intimacy and oneness. And that's where you really get beyond the shame. Even the Bible says, be naked and not ashamed, right? So it wasn't just physically naked, it was emotional nakedness.
Yeah.
And what you've spent so much time kind of walking couples through with their Enneagram, and where they're unpacking who they really are at the core, requires a level of nakedness. And there's a lot of shame and guilt and all types of issues that people struggle with. But when you understand who you really are, it takes you to the next level. Okay, awesome. We have a couple of questions here from Sandy. Is it possible to get your relationship back on track after multiple infidelities and lies over 12 years? I just feel flat and emotionless towards him. The answer is absolutely yes. I will say that we worked with countless couples where infidelity was a part of the relationship from I do. Actually, it was prior to I do. But is it a quick fix? No, it never is. I mean, statistics suggest that it takes some time to really recover from an affair when you are getting the proper help and guidance. If you attempt to do it on your own, it's not going to work. Now, we have a video on YouTube that's entitled "You Will Cheat Again Unless," and it talks about the 6 things that a person who's been unfaithful has to do to keep from cheating again. I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of them obviously would be counseling, getting help from someone outside yourself. The next thing is really being a part of a support group or a community of individuals who are on the same path, who can help guide. You know, we all, as they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a community to keep a marriage intact and a person intact. And when you can be vulnerable enough to be a part of a community, you know, one of the things that we say in our men's group is every man needs a man. Because if I'm around other men, I become strengthened by those other men. And so this power in community, spiritual transformation, you have to submit to God, because some issues are beyond your ability to overcome and break free from. So you need the power of God to get you through things. So there's many things, but the answer is yes. And I would encourage you to just reach out to us, set up a discovery call, and let's figure out how we can help you in your particular situation. Hope that helps. We have another question from Karen. Can a spouse recover from porn on their own or with the help of Jesus alone? 20 years addiction. See, this go ahead.
Oh, I just think the answer is in the question. It definitely depends on the person. There are many people who have went cold turkey on many things and they never looked back. But if it's been 20 years of addiction, this person sounds like they actually do need intervention and some kind of support to actually break free from this.
Yeah, there are all types of addiction programs that you can join that really, I mean, Sex Anonymous is one of them. They deal with pornography. And then there's other ministries around the country who have what we would call Re-Engage, which is a restoration group. So there's many things that you could point to. And if he's resistant, then this is something he's going to deal with forever. And really, if he's trying to do it on his own, then what he's really struggling with is pride and ego. Period, point blank. And maybe the shame of not wanting to share with other people. But he's going to need to do something different. Yeah. Insanity is doing the same thing, but expecting different results. So if you want something different, you got to do the opposite of what you've always done. And that will help you get the solution you're looking for. Another question. This is a long one. Let's see what it says.
Nope, that's about the doctor.
See what happens? Yeah. See what happens? We get spam even on the Facebook and YouTube Live, but it's all good. All right, bring those questions in. Please don't say my name. Oh, all right, I won't say your name. But my question is, what can you do when a man is going through midlife crisis with infidelity and in the marriage? Okay, so there are many root causes for infidelity. One of them is a midlife crisis. And I think everybody goes through a shift. Robert Kiyosaki wrote a book, many books, and he talks about the 4 quarters of life. And he kind of compares it to a football game. He says, when you're between the ages of 1 and 24, that's your first quarter. 24 or 25 and like 45, that's your second quarter of life. Then you have halftime. Then you have your third and your fourth quarter. And it goes up to like the age of 60. The point is, we go through seasons in our life, but we reach a place where we become middle-aged, where we begin to experience an identity crisis. As we go from one decade to another, you know, the things that were important to us before are no longer important. We pick up new likes, new interests, new this, that, and the other. And it can create a crisis. T.D. Jakes wrote a book called Reposition Yourself, that whatever season of your life that you're in, you know, you have to learn how to pivot And when you're lost trying to figure things out, you have to be anchored in God, where your true identity comes from. So you don't find your identity in sports cars. You don't find your identity in the validation of other people. You don't find your identity in those things that won't keep you anchored in doing the right thing. So it's all about getting back to you. It's all about reestablishing your relationship with yourself and with your God. When you have that, then it allows you to function and operate in a powerful way. But I will say, we have worked with a lot of couples who have struggled with the whole midlife crisis thing and wanted to take on a new life and new relationships and new this and new that. And it literally crumbled their marriage.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, the new car and the new career and all the newness. When you see that people go through the midlife crisis and they start to experience infidelity, that's speaking to issues that were in the marriage, and they want the new marriage. They want something new. It's not working here. And so the response I would have to that is to seek the support that you need. Unfortunately, we wait so long. We wait until it gets to the point where this is one of the major issues in my midlife crisis that I am upheaving and I am getting rid of. And we want to get there before that, but it's not too late if you're already there to try to work out some of these issues with your spouse so that you can have the marriage that you want, and you can focus on other things in life with this midlife crisis, like, having a great retirement or working on a new career or something like that, that doesn't involve, infidelity in your marriage.
Absolutely. Great answer. We have another question from Wally. I cheated on my girlfriend of 2 years and was caught. I have taken responsibility for my actions and she broke up with me. How long should I wait after working on myself before reaching out? Or should I let her reach out to me when she's ready? That's a really good question.
That is a good question.
I would say that the working on yourself is a lifelong process. You're always going to be working on yourself.
Yeah.
So I don't think that will ever stop. The moment you think, okay, I got it all together, is when you're setting yourself up for failure once again. So it's a lifelong journey. But I do think that there should be some type of work you do. And I don't think that you should have to wait to reach out. One of the things I think would be helpful, because if there's too much time between the reconnection, she may go off to another relationship and it may be too late. If this is a relationship you really want, let her know the work you're doing on yourself. And I think it speaks to the other question, like, it can't be something you're doing on your own. Like, show her that she can believe in what you're doing. If you're saying, well, yeah, I read a book and, and I'm praying a little bit more. Well, okay, it's going to take more than that.
It sure is.
Are you getting help from somebody? Let her know.
Yeah. And I have a slightly different perspective on it, because there's a couple of philosophies on that. And that is, you think about when you go through construction in your house and you're demoing your kitchen, right? You have a vision and a plan for what the kitchen is going to look like. It's going to be pristine. It's going to be perfect. But during the demolition, when you have no sink and you have no counters and you have no floors, do you really want to invite guests? So I think it depends on the status of your relationship when it ended. We understood that you cheated. We don't know the specifics of the situation. If this was a multiple affairs, if this is long-term issues that time and time again, you said, I'm going to get it together this time. I'm going to get it together this time. And you never did get it together. And so depending on that, if this is a situation where you really do need to prove to this person that there is some massive change in you, I agree with Hassani. Reach out, let the person know that you are working on you, right? Because you're trying to become a better person. But I think that the other idea is to get your demolition done, tear everything down, build yourself back up so that you can invite guests and they see the new kitchen, the new you.
I love it. That makes a lot of sense. Another question came in. This is a good one. Unfaithful spouse who thinks that they don't need to be transparent about their finances and don't need to share investment plans with their partner. That is a big issue. And it goes back to vulnerability and transparency. Listen, there can't be secrets in your marriage. You can't compartmentalize aspects of your life from your partner. It goes against the principle of oneness. And so we've talked about this before, but we realize that this is a major issue when it comes to finances. Like, some couples, like, they're good in so many different areas, but finances, whole nother thing. So it's I got mine, you got yours. You don't need to know what I'm doing with mine. Why you all up in my, why you all up in my phone? Why you all up in my email? Why you all up in my bank account? Why you wondering what I'm doing with my money? Like, that's my stuff. And I think that creates a divide. And the reality is, if you operate independent of your partner, then you don't really benefit from the power of your partnership. We have experienced from day one to day now the power of a decision, the power of being in alignment. And when she thinks one way and I think another way, and we can't come into agreement, we remain stagnant and stuck. But I've realized that when we have actually come together on things, the speed or the rate or the pace of accomplishing something was almost like, it was like bullet speed, as opposed to when we were separate, it would take months and years to come to some conclusion. And so likewise, when it comes to your finances, especially now with this economy, with the uncertainty, with all that's going on, how are you going to be separate and have your own private this and private that? It's insanity. This is the time to get naked financially and put all of the chips on the table and figure out what we're going to do as a couple. I think there are couples who literally have insurance policies and wills and all types of paperwork that they will not share with their partner. And it's just like, well, how am I benefiting from this marriage if everything concerning everything financial and business, I don't even know about? Like, I just think it's insane. So it speaks to a deeper issue, right? Money is the manifestation of a deeper issue. We need to get to the root cause of why there is this struggle with being transparent. And once we can resolve that, then transparency will show up in your finances, as it will show up in other areas of your life.
Exactly. Oneness is oneness, and you can apply it to any situation. And I think that when it comes to our finances, we move against this template that I need to put all my money together and we need to get our money from the same bank account. And none of that is true. Wherever you can meet the minds, that's where your oneness exists. So that's what to focus on. Stop focusing on what you're going to have to give up. Stop focusing on who's going to be right and who's going to be wrong. Focus on accessing your oneness, because the oneness, wherever it lands in whatever situation you're talking about, is where you're going to be able to tap into the power.
So true. There's power in your partnership, guys. And if you're not tapping into it, you're missing out on a huge portion of your union. And last point on this, like, there's the benefits of marriage and then there's the purpose of marriage. The benefits, great communication, you have companionship, sexual fulfillment, you can do vacations together, beautiful home. Like, those are the benefits. Those are the perks of being with somebody. But the purpose of your marriage is in the power of your partnership. I can't wait till we really explore that, because when we talk about the marriage mastermind and the true reason that God put you together, there's so much potential that you haven't even tapped into yet. And so that's why we want to get through all the conflict and overcome the infidelity and get past the relationship and the communication issues so that we can tap into what this thing is really all about. And guess what? The enemy knows the power of marriage. That's why he works so hard in overtime to keep strife and dissension and conflict in your homes. Because if you ever realize who you really were and the power of what you can have together, the enemy would be defeated. So this is spiritual warfare, folks. You're coming together and the whole purpose of having an amazing marriage is what you can do for the kingdom. There's so much power in what we have. And once you know your spiritual inheritance and authority, everything begins to change. I love this next question. Oh, I can't wait. All right. So here we have, we're going to get to you, G. Wilson. I saw your question. Okay. I stepped out of my marriage a few times because my husband has a porn issue. Should we divorce? Well, the quick answer to that would be no. I think people use divorce as their first step. Okay, well, I can't figure this out. First step, divorce. The last step should be divorce, not the first step. There's so many other steps in between the idea of divorce and actually getting a divorce. So have you gone to counseling? Have you taken a class? Have you gone to a retreat? Have you read a book? Have you gone to a spiritual leader? Have you done any of those things? If you've done none of those things, no. And then I would say, well, if you have done those things, have you gone to the right one? I can't tell you how many people come to us who complain about the fact that they got no help from the people that they went to because they weren't qualified, they weren't skilled enough, they didn't have the insight, the know-how. And so it's so funny. I've heard people say, you know what, the counseling thing doesn't work. I tried it and it just doesn't work, so I'm not interested in it. Well, let me ask you a question. Is this your first relationship? Probably not. Have you ever had a boyfriend or girlfriend in your past that didn't work? Probably, but yet you got into another relationship. You didn't give up on relationships because there was a relationship that didn't work. So why would you give up on the counseling process because you had a bad experience with someone? So there's so much you can do to turn this thing around. And I would say let divorce be your last option, not your first option. There's a lot that you can do in between. I'm looking forward. Now the questions are coming in. Good God, they're coming in. All right, I wanted to get to D. Here we go. All right. So I want to know, what challenges do you all have by working together on a constant basis? We are starting a business together. I love it. Well, I'll let you speak to that. I'll speak to that. I think for me, being honest, one of the biggest issues that I had working with Danielle was getting in her way, getting in her lane. Like, she's a creative. I'm not a creative. I had all these opinions about her creativity. Like, she's a graphic designer, a web designer, ad creator and manager. And I'm always in her seat trying to steer that ship instead of staying in my lane. So I think clearly defining your roles and staying in your lane is critical. I realized that, okay, I'm a writer. I write, I speak, I counsel, and I do a lot of the sales calls. And I manage like the finances. That's my contribution to the business. Danielle has a whole other list of skills and qualities, and I had to learn to step out of her way and let her do what she does and trust her process. Because what I realized is that whatever she starts with is not what she ends with. So I would be weighing in at the beginning of it, and she's just like, Joker, can I finish? Can you give me a chance to finish it? Good God. And so I think I would soil her experience because I was too involved in that. So that's me being transparent about what would you say was your contribution?
First of all, I got to piggyback on that because that was powerful what he said. And I was just like, oh, wow. My background before we became marriage and family coaches is marketing director, brand development, graphic design, artistry, event creation, which I have been able to shift into what we do here. So obviously we do a lot of that here with the marketing and branding and all of that. So that's part of my skill set. So for him to say that he was getting in my way, I think it's interesting because I don't see you getting in my way too much anymore, which you have learned and come a long way.
I've come a long way, folks.
But I even remember a time, and this is important to know about starting a business together, about staying in your lane. It is so important because I have literally launched other successful businesses away from this, dividing our attention, dividing our energy, because I did not feel the autonomy to be able to move with my skills here. So I took my skills elsewhere where they were valued, where they were acknowledged, and where I was able to thrive. So that's a powerful thing for you to take away what he said. When it comes to a couple working together, you have to know your lane and stay in it and be willing to acknowledge each other's gifts and talents. That's number one. The other thing that stands out as a challenge for couples that are working together, and I love this question because it's a passion of mine to work with couples who are in business together, is the time factor. We spend a tremendous amount of time together, but the quality of time is determined by what we invest into it, right? We're spending time right now. Every morning we come on here and we talk to you, but this isn't quality time for us. This is work for us. So if time is not acknowledged and said, hey, if Hassani were to say, hey, we spent time together. We were together this morning. We were talking about the business. We were talking about the clients. We talk all the time. We talk about our clients. We're helping clients, but that has nothing to do with Hassani and I. And so what we have to do is be very intentional about setting time aside for us to actually connect. We literally have to debrief or detox from the issues and the struggles and the hurt and the pain that we absorb from other people so that we can see each other, meet each other eye to eye and support each other and just be Danielle and Hassani, husband and wife, not coaches, not media personalities, none of that. So that is a phenomenon. And there are probably, there are a million other things that could be laid out as landmines to avoid when you are a couple that is married and business together. And I would love to talk to you more about that. So make sure that you inbox us.
Excellent question. Excellent answer. All right, here we go. Can you have too many people involved in your recovery to the point where it can inadvertently hurt your recovery process? Absolutely, yes. You can have too many people. And this is a constant problem for a lot of couples where you have one partner who's private, and listen, whatever happens in this house stays in this house. I don't feel comfortable with you sharing with this person and that person. The other person, like, I need somebody to talk to, because if I don't, I'm going to lose my mind, and we need help up in here. And so there's this tug of war. And one of the things that we work with couples on is creating what we call your hub and spoke support model. And it goes back to the idea of, if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a small inner core community to keep a marriage intact. And when you think about the spokes of support, one of those spokes should be a counselor, right? That's where Couples Academy comes in. One of those spokes should be a marriage mentor. Every couple should have, if they can find one, another couple who has a pretty good, healthy relationship where you can glean from them. You can get great insight from them. And like, if we're at odds and we can't seem to come to an agreement, what we may decide to do is submit to the wisdom of another couple and glean from them. I can talk to the husband. Danielle can talk to the wife, and they're going to give us balanced information. And last point, another part of your hub and spoke support model, like, let's just say Danielle has a friend named Jamaica, and she talks to Jamaica, and she's like, man, you know, Hassani, man, he's tripping. He's doing. And if Jamaica is saying, girl, I told you, you need to leave Hassani because he ain't no good. You could do, listen, there's so many men out there that, see, that's a friend of Danielle, but she's not a friend of the marriage. So you should have people in your life who are a friend of your marriage, because when she goes to Jamaica, Jamaica should say, well, what about you, Danielle? And what have you done? And what have you said? And have you considered that maybe Hassani, da, 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 da? And if you have people who become a support system in that regard, because they're trying to get you back, they're fighting for your last name, not your first name. If they're fighting for your last name, they qualify to be in your hub and spoke. So those are simple things that you can do to keep people in your marriage. All right, we got another question. All right, here we go. My husband still hasn't told me that hold on, let's go up, because there was a two-part. My husband has been cheating from day one of our 19-year marriage, still is cheating. He just planned a vacation without consulting me with all the plans. Dates to go, where to go, and where to stay. He discussed and planned all of this with his coworker. He doesn't consider me anything when I'm confronting him about it, and he said that it's not a big deal and that I am overreacting. I don't want to go with him and the kids for the vacation because I'm hurt. What should I do? So once again, we're dealing with a situation. And when couples come to us with situations, if every week there's a different situation and we solve the situation, doesn't change the problem. There's always the root. There's always the root cause. This is why we need principle-centered marriages. So if you operate according to principles, it will either resolve the situation or prevent the situation. So I'm trying to understand the question. He's cheated on you from the very beginning. Now he plans a vacation without consulting you. I'm trying to see what the tie is between those two different things. But ultimately, there's no way that I can plan a vacation, put the location together, where I'm staying together, the dates, this, that, and the other. And after I've done it, then tell Danielle what we're doing. I would think that if we're planning a family vacation, then we should bring the family together. So we have 4 girls. We bring the family together and we say, hey guys, what do you want to do for our family vacation? And we allow everybody to weigh into the decision. So we'll go down a list of locations. We'll consider where we want to stay, what we want to do, because if it's about what I want and it doesn't serve the needs, the interests, the passions of my wife or my kids, then it's really Hassani's vacation that I'm allowing other people to come into. And so to me, if you're planning something like that, you have to consult your partner. If we have a couple's vacation, either we're going to plan it together, or if I'm surprising her, fine, that's different. Yeah. But if it's a couple's vacation, it requires conversation.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just a symptom of a bigger, deadlier virus that's going on in that relationship. I mean, if you're not talking about planning a family vacation, you're probably not talking about much of anything else. And there's probably a lot of other areas in your life where you are going unacknowledged. And I wonder if this has been a consistent pattern in your marriage, or if this is something new, or if you're just awakening to this truth for you in your marriage. There's so many questions that are risen as a result of your question. So I would just recommend that you reach out to us. I think that there's a little bit more discovery necessary to give you what you need so that you know how to act.
Final question. How long the unfaithful overcome trauma? Okay. How long does it take for the unfaithful person to overcome trauma? It's really up to you. What are you doing? If we look at a 4-lane highway, the right lane, the lane all the way to the right is the slowest lane. The lane all the way to the left is the fastest lane. So depending upon what you're actively doing will determine the pace that it takes for you to overcome. If you're doing it on your own, and it speaks to an earlier question, I don't want to go to counseling. I have a porn addiction. All I need is me and Jesus. Okay, well, okay, great. You may be in a slow lane. If you join a community, if you get counseling, if you combine a few different things, you're moving over to the left lane, which is a faster lane to get through the process. So you cannot rely just on yourself. Listen, we have a whole lot of books here. You can't see them, but there's books everywhere. And these books have the answer. But knowing is not enough. You got to do something with what you know. And it requires sometimes having a coach to guide you through a process and to hold you accountable. So hopefully that helps you today. We look forward to Fridays to be able to answer these questions. But listen, send these questions in or just set up a free discovery call so that we can have a conversation with you and come up with a plan of action that will work for you and your marriage. Guys, hope you have an amazing weekend, and we will see you on Monday for another great conversation. Take care. Love